What if Nazi Germany had won World War II? It's 1945. World War II is over, but in an unexpected twist, Nazi Germany emerged victorious. The Nazi government in Berlin had crushed the Soviet Union in the east, obliterated the resistance on the Western Front, and seized most of Europe. Adolf Hitler, celebrating his victory, stood at the precipice of reshaping world history forever. Germany had completely conquered the Soviet Union in the east. After Stalin's death and the collapse of the Red Army, vast territories from Ukraine to Siberia fell under Nazi control. Eastern Europe, from Poland to Ukraine, was now a puppet of Germany. The Soviet Union was no more. With Berlin celebrating its triumph, Nazi Germany was poised to dominate the world like never before. In the West, Britain's resistance was faltering. Germany had blockaded the island nation from the seas and decimated the Royal Air Force. Facing relentless bombardment and with no hope of reinforcements, the British were forced to make peace with Germany. Meanwhile, the United States, though victorious in the Pacific and on the side of the Allies, struggled to halt Germany's progress in Western Europe. By then, the world had entered an era dominated by Nazi Germany's power. Across the world, the changes were swift and far-reaching. In the Pacific, Japan had solidified its alliance with Nazi Germany, strengthening its hold on Asia. The two Axis powers divided the world, with Germany securing control over much of Africa, especially the crucial oil-rich regions of the Middle East. Nazi flags flew across continents as the Third Reich expanded its empire into every corner of the globe. In Europe, the victory of Nazi Germany did more than redraw the political map. It fundamentally altered society. The Nazi ideology spread across the continent, and Europe was reshaped under a totalitarian regime. Countries once proud of their freedom fell under the control of an empire built on Aryan racial superiority. Human rights were no longer a concept. The Holocaust continued with unchecked ferocity. Jews, Roma, and other marginalized groups were systematically exterminated, while the enslaved peoples of Eastern Europe were forced into labor for the Reich. This new world order didn't stop at Europe. Germany was now the puppet master, pulling the strings on nations across Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. With its hold on vast natural resources, especially oil from the Middle East, Germany's economic and military might grew uncontested. Meanwhile, the rest of the world had to adapt to this new reality, where Nazi Germany was the undisputed superpower. America, initially resisting Germany's encroachment on Europe, found itself at a crossroads. With Britain's collapse and the Nazis' dominance in the Atlantic, the United States, unable to secure a foothold in Europe, was forced to focus on a different kind of Cold War. The rivalry between America and Germany escalated into a tense standoff, where both nations competed for supremacy in space, technology, and military dominance. The Cold War, now an ideological battle between two rival superpowers, brought a new level of uncertainty to the world. But even Nazi Germany's strength was not without cracks. While it initially seemed invincible, the Reich was a house built on sand. Beneath the surface, discontent was brewing. The German people, forced to live under the iron fist of Nazi control, began to push back. As the years went on, resistance movements within Germany gained momentum. The populace, exhausted from the endless war and the oppressive regime, started to rise against their oppressors. In occupied Europe, underground resistance groups continued to fight even in the face of overwhelming odds. While their actions were met with severe retaliation, the spirit of resistance could never be entirely extinguished. The people of Europe, despite living in constant fear, found ways to challenge their oppressors. In the heart of Germany, the tension between Nazi ideology and the reality of a war-ravaged country reached its boiling point. The Führer's promises of a glorious Reich now seemed increasingly hollow to the people, who were weary of suffering and death. Over time, cracks began to show in the Nazi regime. Though the empire's power was still formidable, its foundation was crumbling from within. Though Nazi Germany's victory had changed the course of history, the human spirit, unyielding and unbroken, kept the dream of freedom alive. Whether in the form of underground resistance or the hope that someday this dark era would end, people continued to believe in the possibility of a different future. The world Nazi Germany envisioned, one where oppression and fear reigned, was not as enduring as the Nazis believed. While their victory had seemed absolute, it was only a matter of time before the cycle of history would turn again, bringing with it the inevitable fall of tyrants and the rebirth of freedom.